Has China's growth story hit a roadblock? Is the country's economic miracle over? I'm asking these questions tonight because the country is facing a financial meltdown. Every week there is a new headline about its impediments. The economy, after all, is in the doldrums. The GDP growth rate has slowed down. National debt is nearing the IMF red line. Youth unemployment at a record high. And as if all of that was not enough, its property giants, so-called property giants, are now filing for bankruptcy protection. I'm talking about Evergrande. Earlier today, the Chinese property giant filed for cover from creditors in a US bankruptcy court. Why is that? Because it's worried that the real estate crisis back home in China might impact its fortunes. And here's what we know so far. Evergrande made the Chapter 15 bankruptcy protection filing in a New York court on Thursday. Chapter 15 protects the US assets of a foreign company while it works on restructuring its debts. Is Evergrande doing this? Yes, it is. It has been, in fact, working to negotiate its agreements with creditors after defaulting on its debt repayments. Its debts are estimated to total more than $300 billion, and this makes it the world's most heavily indebted property developer. Most of its properties back in China are on the verge of seizures. It now wants to avoid a rerun in the United States. Whatever be the case, this does not look good on China, especially at a time like this, when it's dealing with a slew of disappointing economic data. And Evergrande is just one piece of that puzzle. There is so much more evidence to indicate just how the Chinese economy is falling apart. According to reports, China is likely to miss its growth target of 5% this year. The prediction has been made by several banking giants. JP Chase is one of them. It has further lowered its full-year forecast. In May, the bank had predicted a 6.4% expansion. Last week, it lowered it to a 4.8%. So did Barclays. It has cut China's GDP growth rate estimate to 4.5%. Now, for the unversed, China's official target for this year is 5%, meaning it is aiming for a 5% GDP expansion. But if we go by this wave of downgrades, it seems to be failing badly on the mission. And that's not even all. China's Great Wall of Debt is also expanding. According to a new Forbes report, China's overall debt, both in the public and the private sector, has risen to a colossal $51.9 trillion. I repeat, $51.9 trillion. This is the highest level recorded in the last 27 years, by the way. And there's more. China's debt is inching closer to the IMF's red line. Reports say China's household debt has increased from 61.9% at the end of last year to 63.5% in the second quarter of 2023. This may be a slight jump, but it has taken the debt closer to the International Monetary Fund's warning point of 65%. And next, we have unemployment. It is also at a record high. Reports say the urban employment rate for people between the ages of 16 to 24 has risen to 21.3%. And this figure is so bad that Beijing has decided to not release figures anymore. I'm not making this up. Look at what The Guardian states. China has suspended the release of youth unemployment figures. And then we come to the property sector. Reports say China is facing a housing market slump. Home prices have been falling for 16 months straight. Land sales, which account for 40% of all local government revenue, have also collapsed. I have a report with me. It says that the sales of new residential properties in China tumbled around 28% as compared to last year. And if we speak of investment in property development, which is a vital driver of both industrial and consumer demand, it sank 7.9% in the first half of the year compared to a year earlier. And analysts say this is a troubling sign of persisting weakness in the industry. What does this tell you? That China's property bubble has burst. Its mighty real estate sector is also crashing. It's not so mighty anymore. And this is worrying, by the way, because this sector accounts for around 29% of the Chinese GDP. It accounts for a quarter of domestic output, almost 80% of household assets. Around 100,000 companies operate in this very sector. And this makes it the country's second biggest employer, providing around 27 million jobs to Chinese citizens. And all of this is now under threat, courtesy the whims of one man, Xi Jinping. His draconian zero-COVID policy, his bizarre decision to limit debt to developers, his sudden purges in almost every Chinese sector, also his habit of settling scores with Chinese businessmen, they all seem to have culminated into the crisis that China is facing right now. And this is embarrassing, to say the least. 2023 was meant to be the year of China's economy, the year when its economy unshackles itself and roars back to stimulate global growth. That is clearly not happening. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.